Motivational interviewing, the basics. Welcome to this unit of the SBIRT training. This is Mo Cuevas again, and I'm going to walk you through this training. Why should we be interested in clients' motivation for behavior change? What do you think? The reality is that if the client's not motivated, there's not a whole lot we can do. We can't make the behavior change on our own. So the motivation that the client has is pretty important. Let's find out what you think about motivation. Until a person is motivated to change, there is not much we can do. True or false? Actually, it's false. We can help them become motivated to change. It usually takes a significant crisis or hitting bottom to motivate a person to change. True or false? This one's false as well. That's what a lot of people say, that you have to hit bottom. But that doesn't necessarily have to happen. Motivation is influenced by human connections. True or false? This one is true. Human connection can make or break motivation. People choose whether or not they will change. True or false? I believe they do. Readiness for change involves a balancing of pros and cons. True or false? This one's true, and we'll learn more about that later in the MI training. Creating motivation for change usually requires confrontation. True or false? This one's false. Motivational interviewing isn't about confrontation. It's about aligning yourself with the person so that you can together talk about making change. Denial is not a client problem. It is a skill problem. True or false? I believe this one is true, and it is our skill problem. For a minute, think about why you think people change. Why don't people change? By the end of this session, the end of this presentation, you'll be able to define motivational interviewing, identify the tasks in motivational interviewing, describe the spirit of motivational interviewing, which lead to the principles of motivational interviewing, and identify MI techniques to help clients change. Motivational interviewing is a client-centered, directive method for enhancing intrinsic motivation to change by exploring and resolving ambivalence. That's the definition of motivational interviewing. The tasks of MI are to engage by being sensitive and having sensitive conversations with your clients, to focus on what's important to the client about behavior, health, and welfare, evoke the client's personal motivation for change, and negotiate plans. Motivating often means resolving conflict and ambivalent feelings and thoughts. Once those are resolved, it's much easier to be motivated. Motivational interviewing spirit. People are generally better persuaded by the reasons which they have themselves discovered than by those which have come into the mind of others. So if I think it's my idea, I'm more apt to follow through. The spirit of MI is a way of being with clients that is collaborative. You're working together. Evocative, respectful of autonomy, and compassionate. Collaboration, not confrontation. You're developing a partnership where the client is the expert. They are the expert in their world, and we're just here experiencing it with them. And we're fostering and encouraging power sharing in the interaction. We're equal. There's not a power differential. Not education. Motivation for change resides within the client. It's enhanced by eliciting and drawing on the client's own perceptions, experiences, and goals. It comes from within, and a way to get there is to ask open-ended questions. Autonomy, not authority. You show this by respecting the client's right to make informed choices that can facilitate change. You believe that the client is in charge of his or her choices and is responsible for the outcome. And you believe and emphasize client control and choice. And finally, compassion. Empathy for the experience of others, a desire to take away their suffering, and a belief and commitment to act in the best interest of the client. It's not a way of tricking people into doing what you want them to do. It's not a specific technique. There's no set script. It's not problem solving or skill building. And it's not just client-centered therapy. It really is very easy to learn. So now we'll talk about the principles of motivational interviewing. MI is founded on 4 basic principles, and this comes from the original authors, the people who developed motivational interviewing. You express empathy, you develop discrepancy, you roll with resistance, and you support self-efficacy. Expressing empathy. What is empathy? It's showing someone that you accurately understand them. It assumes that the person's perspective is understandable, comprehensible, and valid. And it seeks to understand the person's feelings and perspectives, thoughts, without judging. Empathy is important because it tells someone that you accept them, and being accepted helps you feel positive about change. Empathy encourages a collaboration, a way of working together. And empathy leads to an understanding of each individual's unique perspective, feelings, and values. And all of those pieces come together to facilitate change. Ways to express empathy and to show that you're doing it are to maintain good eye contact, to be responsive in your movements, your body, your facial expression, verbal and nonverbal encouragers, like saying, I understand. Reflective listening that asks clarifying questions. Can you tell me more about that? And not expressing doubt or passing judgment. The bottom line on empathy is that if we accept what our client is saying, that helps them to change. And reflective listening is fundamental to expressing empathy. And ambivalence is pretty normal. The next MI principle is developing discrepancy. You look at the current behavior and the future goals. Is what you're doing now going to get you to where you want to be? Rolling with resistance, going with what the blockage is and working through that is one of the principles of motivational interviewing. So when they say, I don't plan to quit drinking anytime soon, you say, you don't think that abstinence would work for you right now. Or you reframe something in a way that makes it more positive. My husband is always nagging me about my drinking, always calling me an alcoholic. It really bugs me. The social worker can respond with, sounds like he really cares about you and is concerned, although he expresses it in a way that makes you angry. And supporting self-efficacy. Clients are responsible for choosing and carrying out actions to change. It's their choice. We're just helping them to make it. 4 other guiding principles are resisting the righting reflex. If a client is ambivalent and the social worker pushes changing, what do you think is going to happen? What happens when somebody pushes you to do something? Sometimes you get pretty resistance. So we have to resist the righting reflex. We have to understand our clients' motivations. Since we don't have a lot of time with them, we want to find out what their reasons are and why they would choose to change, rather than focusing on the fact that they should. We need to listen. When it comes to behavioral change, the answers are within the client, and finding those answers requires listening. And we have to empower the client. A client who is active and participating and exchanging information with us and really present in the conversation is more likely to begin the change process. So, motivational interviewing is evidence-based, it provides structure to the appointment, and it's readily adaptable to many social work settings. In the next unit, you'll learn the steps and core skills of motivational interviewing.